Hello and welcome back to 1874. It's time for a match reaction show as Aston Villa fell to a heavy 4-1 defeat at Crystal Palace last night. Another miserable evening at Selhurst Park for the Villa faithful. I am your host, Dan Bardell, and I really don't want to be doing this, really don't want to be here, but I am joined by Jacob Tanswell, who unfortunately for him was at Selhurst Park last night. This show is sponsored by Luke Roper, and if you want to get 20% off everything Luke have to offer, then use the code TVV20 and you'll get 20% off everything on their website, I believe. Right then, Jacob, let's do this. I think under Emery, I've certainly never been less enthused to do a post show. I put in the title that was Villa's worst defeat under Unai Emery. Would you be inclined to agree with me?
No, I simply no.
Tell me a worse one, please.
I just think the defeats away to Monaco and Bruges were worse in terms of they did, obviously defensively they conceded fewer than Palace, admittedly. But I think yesterday even Villa did look okay for like 30 minutes. They did show a bit and did score a couple of goals. One was obviously disallowed. So they did show a few nice passages, I guess, which was more than those two games where I just thought Villa was not only rubbish but they're extremely dull. But yesterday they were just extremely rubbish. So I can understand why you think that's probably the worst one. Certainly one of the most damaging in the league. But I think there's been a few others, really. Palace seems to be a kryptonite to the methods. Emery tried to find a solution for it, like we'll come on to. It didn't happen. This morning I was just in the Athletic office just doing a podcast on Villa. And as I stepped outside...
What excellent timing.
I know. And as I stepped outside, pouring down, no umbrella, no coat. And I just thought, this hasn't been a very good last 12 to 16 hours, has it?
No. I think when I say it's the worst defeat under Emery, I'm not necessarily saying it's the worst performance, because I think you're right. I think Villa weren't terrible going forward like they were against Bruges and Monaco. But the way they lost the game, for me,
true,
unforgivable. To get pumped 4-1 at Crystal Palace when you just had a bit of felt like you might get a bit of momentum after a good point against Liverpool, a good win against Chelsea. Last minute, everyone's excited, everyone's euphoric about Villa. It feels like we might be on the precipice of something. Can we go on a run now? Can we push ourselves towards the top 5 and be that team that goes on a run and times they run really well to secure Champions League football? And Villa just turned around and went, nah, don't fancy that. Let's get hammered 4-1 instead. That's a miserable result.
Yeah, it is. And we've saying so long we're waiting for Villa to click. And when we mean click, we mean back-to-back games, a succession of 3 wins in a row. That's happened once this season. Villa, back-to-back games 4 times, and 2 of them were in a 3-game run in September. So Villa have been, let's be honest, middling to average in the league this season. Emery will admit it. They've had really good moments in the Champions League. They've got a wonderful opportunity to win the FA Cup, which I think would be a huge priority and be brilliant, and maybe that would mean it would be a better season than last year.
Oh, Robin Olsen might have something to say about that.
But the league has been really poor. And what was so bizarre is Villa were okay for 30 minutes against Palace. Didn't create a lot, but I could see they were trying to work their way into a tough away game, etc. Despite Palace home record being terrible, I could understand why they did it. And then obviously Palace score, Villa are all over the place, but then they get this lifeline. Obviously the goal's disallowed, but then in second half they're all over the place again at the start of the second half. They go long. Rodgers just gets to go out of nothing really, and you think, okay, right, here we go. Villa can just settle themselves down and build their way into it. When actually they actually got worse after they scored, and it just felt really messy. No joined up thinking. The game plan seemed to go out the window. I don't know what the game plan was at the end. And we've seen a lot of times this season where Villa just look absolutely ragged and we don't really know what's going on. And the players just look void of any inspiration or confidence, really.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that you've just said there. It's just all round a bizarre night. I might have thought Villa might have lost last night, going into the game. I wouldn't have thought this is a gimme by any stretch of the imagination.
You don't lose 4-1.
But there's the way we've lost, and a lot of things I saw last night in terms of, it's easy to say with hindsight, and I always say this when we try and look back and review a performance, but let's go right back to the start, to the team selection. Should Villa be completely ripping up how they play to counteract Crystal Palace? No disrespect to Crystal Palace, because I think they've got some good players and they can be a dangerous side, albeit they'd only won 2 games at Selhurst Park, I think, leading into the game last night, which is a pitiful home record in Premier League terms. Should Villa be going away from everything that they did against Chelsea and Liverpool in terms of system, lining up to try and match Crystal Palace and leaving out, two really attacking players that came on and that impacted the game against Chelsea and won Villa the game against Chelsea. Should Villa be doing that? Because I personally, I get you. I like having game plans and you want to counteract the opponent's threat. I get that. It felt a little bit desperate to me to be going to 3 at the back against, I think, 12th place Crystal Palace at the time. That's come on.
Yeah, in hindsight, you can certainly argue that. But for me, the fairest assessment is at the time I thought I would have gone with it, but I can understand why Emery did. I mentioned a few times, I think we did it before the game as well. Palace have been a kryptonite to Villa previously because the wing-back system, like Wolves do to Villa, they stretched Villa. They switched the play quickly, and Villa tends to defend in a really narrow block. So that pulls the back four apart, and the wing-backs really have a lot of success. If you remember the Carabao Cup game, the cross from Munoz for the first goal, I think it was Eze who scored the first goal in the Carabao Cup. But anyway, that was obviously an indication of their wing-back system really hurting Villa. So Villa tried to match it up. They went man for man, duels all over the pitch. And I thought, okay, that's absolutely fine. And maybe in the second half, you can then change formation again if it's 1-1 or there's a goal in it, and then you can, the handbrake can come off, and then you can really go for it. So I can understand it. But now you just look at it, and it's not so much the wing backs; it's just how Villa set up in their overall manner, really. So I would stray away from let's talking about the system or the formation on paper. I would think, why aren't Villa defending how they used to in terms of when they sit in a mid block? You used to see Jacob Ramsey almost as a left back. In like they used to be, it used to be like a 6-2-2, and that's how Villa used to compensate for the narrow back four. They used to obviously get Leon Bailey or Jacob Ramsey back into the back line, and they would defend like that. Don't do that anymore. Sometimes last year, when they're under pressure in possession, Martinez would hit the fullbacks, go long. Don't do that anymore. The one time they do go long, they score a goal from it, but for some reason they decide not to do it again. So it's more about how they manage games and there's different structures within the game rather than the formation on paper.
But obviously, you've left out essentially. I get Villa have got games coming up, but the time to rest people arguably is Friday against Cardiff, or rotate a little bit there. If you're Marcus Rashford, you've come on in the last game and played 45 minutes. Surely he's worth a start against Crystal Palace. Yeah. If you're Daniel Marlon, who's come on and had a good 15 minutes, and you've been left out of the Champions League squad, and you're expecting to play Premier League games, should you be sat on the bench for the entirety of a game that you've lost 4-1? Probably not. And Asensio must have been high as a kite after the Chelsea game, scoring a last-minute winner. And you sat on the bench. I just thought it was a really strange team selection. You could argue in Emery's defence that when they did move away from the 3 at the back, actually that was when they conceded all the goals. So Emery did try and say that actually the defensive system was working, and then we conceded. But it doesn't really matter what formation Villa play at the moment, and this is what I don't like about it. We concede goals anyway. You just really rip it up and change your defence. That system has taken away from us a little bit in an attacking sense because you've got one less attacking player playing. We concede goals anyway because we're absolutely hopeless at the back. And yet again, first real attack from Crystal Palace last night has ended up in the back of the net. It's not a good goal. It's a hopeful ball into the box. I think Emery probably should do a little bit better in terms of where he's palmed it out to. And I should have put my life savings on Ismail Assar scoring because he scores every time he walks on the pitch against Villa. Yeah,
and if you look at how Palace set up their front three, obviously the 2 flanking Mateta, it was 3v3 against Villa's backline. And I thought, if Villa actually flipped the script, imagine if you had Marlon, Watkins and Rashford against their backline and you had 3v3, and you think that would be far probably more threatening than what Palace could offer. I can understand why Asensio didn't play. You still got to be very careful with him.
Yeah.
But Rashford, I think there was no excuse. He could have played, but at the same time, Emery was all in on this system. So where would he have played? Would he have played instead of Ramsey? You could say it was harsh before kickoff, or Rodgers maybe. But the goal, a lot of coaches, because I remember having to do this when I was training repeatedly. It was so boring. You would do walkthroughs where the winger would pass it back to the fullback from the opposition, and that would be a trigger for the back line or whoever was in the box to literally rush out and get onto the 18-yard box, get out, squeeze up, and try and catch people offside. Villa just did that, just about, but they just completely forgot about Chris Richards, didn't they? It was just on his own. And then the header is towards the corner, isn't it? But it doesn't seem to have that much power. And for a keeper like Martinez, he should do better, and his save percentage is 20% down on what he does in the Champions League. So there is not a big issue, but there is an issue with Martinez. If he was as good as he previously was. Villa's defence would look a little bit better. But Sarr, yeah, for a guy that had a mixed time at Palace, especially early on, he's clinical this season against Villa.
And when he played for Watford as well, Jack. Obviously, you weren't covering Villa then, but
I
of
was
course
not.
he did turn into the best player in the world when he put on a Watford shirt against Villa as well. I can confirm. Obviously, Villa have gone the wrong side of a couple of VAR decisions. The Ramsey one's blatant. No point talking about that. It's really tight. The Watkins offside for the Rodgers goal that gets disallowed. Unfortunately, if it had been the other way around, we'd all be sat there saying, "Well, it's offside. The lines have been drawn." So you have to take that one on the chin. Unfortunately, it is really tight. It is really annoying, but I've got no problem with it. That's just the way it is. That's how offsides are done with VAR. So we have to accept it. Half time, I did read your article this morning. Obviously, Emi Martinez has gone off. He had a small injury, or Emery said that he thought he was going to be all right. Robin Olsen's had a bit of an argument with a child at half time by the sound of it. Do you want to tell that story for those that haven't read the piece?
So where the press room is you have to walk past the porter cabins where the change rooms are. So when you do walk away, there is like a meeting where you will get in a player's way if they're walking off. I was just going in the press room. I got my typical Selhurst Park steak and ale pie and a cup of tea, and I'm walking out, and Leon Bailey sprints past me. I'm like, okay, right, he's going to come on. And he's like, trying to take everything off. And then I look to the far end and I see on the big screen Robin Olsen getting interviewed by the stadium presenter. I thought, this is a bit weird. But it turns out, as I was listening, that the stadium announcer basically just wanted Olsen to move, because that's where apparently they always do the halftime entertainment where kids from both teams take some penalties. Olsen, rightly was like, I'm kind of coming on to play in the Premier League. I need to warm up. But what made it worse is that the entertainer or the presenter just tried to get an interview of Olsen. He was like, "Can you move, please? Can you move?" And he just carried on. And then the Village staff weren't very happy, and they were basically told them to bugger off. So let's go down the other end. But that didn't endear Olsen to the Palace fans, and they booed for the rest of the game. And it just seemed like it was a real mess at half time. It just seemed very chaotic. Olsen's coming on, Bailey's coming on. It seemed very much of a rush.
He did look rushed when it cut on the TV screen.
Actually. Yeah, he wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Villa players were already out, and Olsen was just in his tracksuit, just walking off, taking his time. I just thought no one's ready. Like Leon Bailey wasn't ready. It just seemed like a rush, like I say, and probably a sign of what was to come in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I hate talking about him. I don't like picking on Villa players. I don't generally do it. Like I like our squad. I like our players. It's not personal with Robin Olsen. I've got absolutely nothing against him, and everyone says he's great around the place, and everyone I've ever spoke to has spoke highly of him. Unfortunately, when he's in goal for Aston Villa, they tend to lose football matches and they tend to concede a lot of goals. And I don't think this is a coincidence. When I saw him coming on, Jen's watching the game with me, knows a little bit about football, but let's face it, she's no expert. People might say I'm not an expert, but she's definitely no expert. I turned around to her and I said, "Oh, well, that means we'll concede 4 goals then." And it's exactly what happened. I'm not saying he was particularly at fault for any of the goals, but it's no coincidence that when he's on the pitch, we can see goals left, right, and centre. We can see goals anyway, as I say. But when he's on the pitch, we can see goals, whatever the season's been, whoever the manager's been. He just inspires so little confidence in the rest of the team. I think his best attribute actually is going long, and Villa scored a goal off him going. I think he has got a good long kick on him to give him his dues. But everything else, in terms of a goalkeeper, unfortunately, he inspires very little confidence in the crowd. He inspires very little confidence in the players in front of him. And I just knew we'd lose that game when he's on the pitch. And again, I really don't want to be unkind. And I hate doing this. But February the 26th, 2025, I think Villa should have a better substitute goalkeeper than Robin Olsen. And he's probably not going to be here next season.
No, he won't be.
I just hate it.
Yeah, and even when I joined Villa in the summer of 2023, there was a feeling that Villa needed to upgrade then. The fact they kicked the can down the road for 6 months, got Joe Gauchi in. He played the early games in the Carabao Cup, didn't he? This season, he needs game time, so he's not an ample number 2. And then you bring on Robin Olsen back, who's been injured for a long time of this season, and I don't think Olsen was at fault for any of the goals. I think it'd be more unfair. I think what people are kind of worried with Olsen is probably right now they're more intangibles in terms of he doesn't inspire confidence. You never feel like, right, okay, Olsen's on, he's a safe pair of hands. We can go and win this game now. It's more a case of it's all a case of fearing what's to come, and I don't think that's ideal. I think maybe he could have done better. He's just slow in getting down for a couple, but I can't see any of them were real big issues. And let's be honest, if Olsen did what Martinez did for the first goal, I think there'd be a lot more criticism.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's not great on Olsen, but at the same time, he's getting on in age. He's going to leave in the summer. Villa will need to invest in a reliable number 2, but it's a Harry Kane problem. Really good goalkeeper will want to come whilst the Argentina and the world's number 1 is ahead of him.
I mean, he came out and punched the ball. I can't remember if it was 3-1 or 4-1.
Oh yes,
and it just went into space. I don't know what happened. He just, like I say, just inspires me with very little confidence, and he definitely affects the players when he's on the pitch. He does. We are conceding goals anyway. I can't deny that. But even in spells where we haven't been massively conceding goals, if he comes in goal, there's a big problem. I only have to go back to the semi-finals of the Conference League first leg last year, where it was just some bizarre keep. He just doesn't look like I would expect a goalkeeper to look like when he's trying to save the ball. Sometimes he comes out and he's in. I can't understand the angles that he's trying to close down, and he just never looks right. And he's not the reason Villa lost, but unfortunately, the game's probably not going to be a good one when he comes into it. And Villa did score. Nice goal in the second half. Well worked from a Villa perspective. Very well taken from Morgan Rogers. You've already mentioned that Villa just got some success with going long and then promptly just didn't try that ever again for the rest of the football match, which made absolutely no sense whatsoever. But why did the game just completely get away from them? It's just absolutely crazy that they can do that, and to lose 4-1 for me is unforgivable.
Yeah, but it does seem like, and it happened on occasions last year, the away form's a big issue. 7 and 9, one of the worst in the league. It does feel like the crowd really impacts these Villa players. It impacts their decision making. Villa obviously wants to play it from the back, and it requires a huge degree of confidence and patience and kind of an arrogance to stand on the ball. But when you've got whistling, when you're booing, when you got the crowd up, and Selhurst Park was really up in the second half, these players look visibly affected, and that in turn affects their decision making and just a general overall structure. They looked a team that had lost their way by the 70th minute. And, when Mateta put them 2-1 up, did anyone really think Villa could come back again? It looked difficult. And then you see Emery, who's increasingly more exasperated on the sideline. It seems like a lot of the players looks lost for answers. And, I do think there's something to be said for going away from home. The crowd really does look to make an impact on these players.
I mean, this is a miserable stat from AVFC Stata. Last night was the 8th time Aston Villa have conceded 4+ goals in a single Premier League game under Unai Emery. Only under Paul Lambert, Villa have conceded 4+ goals more often in the competition. That surprises me. It's not a good stat. Not a good stat from Stata.
He's corrected himself. He said 9 times, not 8 times.
Oh well, okay. So
it's even worse.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Stato. You cheer me up no end.
Stato's one of the best Villa accounts to follow. By the way, he's remarkable.
He is the best. He's not even one of the best. He is the best.
Yeah, and I really appreciate his work. What's great is before during games or after games, I always just click on his profile and just see what great stats you can use. But he's really good, and he deserves more credit.
I used to do a show with him on here. I've no idea why we really stopped doing it. I think it's laziness on my behalf.
Get him back sometimes. Do a 3.
That'd be great. Let's get into negotiations with Stata after this. I enjoyed doing that show. I think I don't know whether the views were massively high at the time, but I really enjoyed doing that show. We should make that happen again because I really enjoyed it. So I'll be in touch over FC Stato Dale to speak to you. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to do. It takes a lot to annoy me. Really, in a football match, I love football. I love Villa, but I'm pretty level-headed when it comes to football. But I say that's not fucked me off big time. It was just an absolute disaster off the back of Saturday, down to 10th. I don't even want to unpick the goals because it's just a waste of time. I will say again that I've got no proof of this, but when Nketiah came on and the commentator said Eddie Nketiah coming on now, searching for his first Premier League goal for Crystal Palace, I again turned around to Jed and said, "Oh well, that'll be happening in the next 10 minutes then."
That was his first goal from like 42 shots. And also, to be fair, it was the perfect charge for him, wasn't it? Literally crawling over the line, no one around him, tap into the net.
I don't know why I'm laughing. It's not funny.
But it is annoying, isn't it? Because you think Villa get themselves up for these big games under the lights at Liverpool, Chelsea second half, Bayern Munich, but then they go to a 3 p.m. on a Saturday, or they play a team that they should win, or should beat, and the pressure's on them to get 3 points, and they just look even more passive and less brave than they do against Liverpool, for example. It's just a really bizarre paradox, and I don't quite understand it. And everyone keeps saying, when are Villa going to click? Top 5. I was on a podcast today and they're like, Villa are only 4 points off a top 4 place. I'm thinking, yeah, of course. But do you back this current Villa team to go on a run when they've shown no evidence of being able to go on a run this season?
I did on Saturday. I don't know.
But they've gone on no run. No, they haven't. The last time they did back-to-back games was when they played Southampton for one of them, which is a free hit. It seems a very difficult as a challenge for Villa. I think getting into the Europa League, Conference League would be good, and it's a more than achievable aim. But this is going to be a real big tussle towards the end of the season, isn't it? And it depends. And I think Villa will need a lot of luck with other teams picking up injuries too.
Yeah, King81 Stato says 22 goals conceded in the last 9 away games, and I looked back at a few things last night. Actually, I think I did it when I was at TalkSport yesterday. 1 away game in the Premier League in 4 months, Jacob.
7 defeats to 9, right?
That is atrocious.
That was Everton, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the last win before that was mid-October against Fulham, which feels a very long time ago now. That isn't good, is it? I can't dress that up.
And how many games as well where have you thought, Villa deserve something from that away game? They got convincingly beaten. Really, I know it's only 2-0, but at Wolves they didn't deserve anything. Tottenham they got battered. Villa. Arsenal second half was good, really good point there. But my word, even early on season, Ipswich, everyone thought Ipswich might have been a really good team. Look at them now. That was 2 points. They were at home. What's the next away game?
I don't know.
Is it not Southampton, is it? Because that could be a good chance to turn around the fortune.
I fancy a striker.
I'll tell you what. If Villa can't beat that team, then my word, that will be the real low. Oh gosh, Brentford and Brighton away next couple.
Not great. Brentford, we've picked up at Brentford in the last couple of years. Actually, yeah. Generally, it used to be an unhappy hunting ground. Just looking at since Villa beat Fulham 3-1 in the Premier League. The 19th of October 2024, which was probably one of our better performances of the season, actually. Even then, we went behind with the first shot of the game because that's just what Villa do. Since then, next one was 4-1 away at Tottenham, absolute disaster class. Then it was Liverpool away. Okay, we've lost that. I can accept it. I didn't think that one was terrible. Chelsea 3-0 was pretty abject. I was in the away end that day. Forest away completely capitulated at the end of the game. Newcastle away, crap, but okay. I think we can. David had 10 men. We can deal with that. Everton away, win, and then I feel like I've missed a game. Arsenal away, 2-2, good comeback. Not knocking it, can't knock that. Wish we'd show some more fighting spirit like that in away games when we're behind. Wolves 2-0 away, atrocious, and Crystal Palace 4-1.
What I will say is, it doesn't have that. You haven't got those real big leaders in the team sometimes. Mings has been, struggling, hasn't he, really, in the last couple of weeks. He's been carrying a lot of injuries, but he's one of those players that you usually pre-injury look to as a guy that could really dig in deep away from home. Boubacar Kamara as well. These tall players as well that could deal set plays. For example, Amadou Onana, if he was fit, he would play against Brentford. He would just simply to combat their long throws, their corners, etc. He would play. He's fragile. Ross Barkley's got experience, has shown early in the season that he's really good at coming on, making impact, can calm games down. He's not been around for a while. So
I think we really miss him either.
Villa miss his goals as well, but also how he can just put his foot on the ball and it literally just control the ball with his soul and just calm it down. Villa don't seem to do that now. McGinn can offer so much from deep driving, but he hasn't got that change of pace where he can just slow it down, regulate it. Kamara can do it and Barkley can do it, and you're missing both of them, which is a real big thing for Villa.
I think Villa just kept playing the same way, and it clearly wasn't working. They kept putting McGinn in dangerous situations. He kept going into the dangerous situation. It was like they had to stick to the blueprint that they'd been told, which I just didn't understand. Sometimes it's got to be a bit more.
Emery was pointing towards the end. Emery was pointing to go long.
It's too late by then, though.
Yeah, I know. So I do wonder if he would have been more open-minded to go longer sooner, but the players didn't respond. But even in case, McGinn was the one that got caught first, and you think, regardless of like his experience, would say, guys, what are we doing? They're literally trying to set a trap on me. They want me to get the ball so they can press me to play to Bogard, and then they'll press again. So yeah, you think someone's got to take ownership. Last year, I was really impressed by how Villa could adapt in games and churn out points when they weren't playing well. Now they're not playing well and they're not getting points either. So that seems to be a big issue.
I mean, I've just looked back at the fixtures. We won 3 of our first 4 away games in the Premier League this season. We were unbeaten in our first 4 Premier League away games this season, and since then we've won 1 game.
Bizarre.
What's changed from the start of the season?
We could, I guess maybe the signs were there early on. I know the results went well, West Ham, but West Ham were
narrow wins. Duran.
Yeah, Duran saved Villa. Well, Leicester as well was unconvincing, apart from a Duran header, which was extraordinary. West Ham weren't good under Lopetegui. Leicester, Steve Cooper, poor team, but Villa still made heavy weather of it. Who was the third game? Third went away from him.
Ipswich 2-2.
Ipswich 2-2. Still, Villa were poor there as well.
Poor there. Should have won.
Yeah. So this is a long running issue for where the patterns are a big enough sample size to show that this is not an anomaly. Villa are really struggling in the league, and they have been, since the end of 2023. We could put the end of last season down to fatigue, but I did expect over the summer Villa would evolve a little bit more. I thought they would show a few more new wrinkles to the play, maybe a change where everything seems to be quite similar to last year. And although that worked fantastically, and it will work, this season at times, other teams are evolving. There's more analysis. They really look at you. They study the footage. They know how to press you. They know how to attack you. And Villa need to evolve from that.
Yeah, I mean, IVFC Stato says here, teams usually have 1 bogey team in the league. It feels like Villa have so many. This is what concerns me about the FA Cup. I'm certainly not confident for Friday.
No.
But all Villa's, Palace still in the FA Cup.
My gosh, let's have a look.
We should know. I feel like we should know. I've got a feeling they are.
Yeah, they are. They got Millwall.
So Villa's main bogey. Villa get past Cardiff and end up taking on Palace away, Wolves away, or Manchester United away in the next round. We might as well forget about it and go.
Yeah, but Newcastle
away. Sorry,
and Bournemouth.
All our bogey teams, and we're not great. Bournemouth away either. So
no,
great. All our bogey teams. And chances are, if we do get through, we'll probably face one of them. Surely we're not going to keep getting drawn at home.
You'd rather have Man City, wouldn't you? At home.
We're their bogey team now in the way. If we take on any of them away, even Forest away hasn't been a great ground in the Premier League.
No.
If we hit any of them, we might as well forget about it. I think I'd rather get knocked out on Friday than have to go through watching us play 90 minutes at one of those grounds, honestly.
No, but it just feels Villa season seesawing. After the Chelsea game, everyone's on the high, getting in top 5.
I was so happy.
Maybe we need to take a lesson of what Emery says. Don't get too high, get too low. If Villa wallop Cardiff and then they go in and they beat Club Brugge over 2 legs, for example, and all of a sudden everyone's going to go, what, this season can still be salvaged. It can still be a brilliant season. So, right now it's looking really disappointing, but it still can be a good season. Villa just need to get their act together sharp.
Yeah, good advice from Jacob. I'm not going to take that advice, but good advice regardless.
They're potentially going to Dubai as well in March, so that'll be a good chance to get some warm weather trading in and top up the tan.
Yeah, I feel like I need a break after yesterday. Really taking it out of me. That I was really, really nappy.
I know.
Right, let's go. Thank you for joining me, Jacob. It's a really unenjoyable experience. People watching probably enjoyed listening to us. Would have enjoyed watching the game last night, but not particularly enjoyable. That's probably my least favourite show I've ever done with you. So. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Charming. Was that because of me or?
No, nothing personal. I could have been doing it with, I don't know. I just can't think of anyone. I could have been doing it with Ian Taylor, and I still would have thought it was rubbish. I still wouldn't have enjoyed it, but yeah, not good. Miserable night. Oh, yeah, let's go. Anyway, right. Thank you to those that have watched live, and thank you to those that will go on and watch and listen as well. I can't be asked to go through all the things I normally go through. You know what I want you to do, so please do it. No, Dan Robinson was speaking to me earlier, and I'm getting a bit tetchy about subscribers. Can't have Claret and Blue overtaking us in terms of subscribers. So get those subscriber numbers up. We don't want to be taking any risks here. If you're watching and you're not subscribed with your post notifications on, please do that. Got a very special show tomorrow. It's so special I haven't even told Jacob about it actually, but special. I reckon it'll be a match preview first. I don't reckon any other YouTube channel will have ever done what we've got coming up on the channel tomorrow. So watch out for that. If you get your post notifications on, you'll know when it's coming out. I'm imagining it will be out in the morning. So yeah, do watch out for the Cardiff preview because it's a special one. Something to probably get more excited about than how we feel at the moment. Maybe it'll cheer us all up. I'm going to go. I'm just rambling now. Thanks ever so much. Thanks to Jacob. Thanks to Luke Roper. Up the Villa.